Hi, I'm Steve Tattum, founder of Fast Reading System, and we believe it's the right of everyone to learn how to read. In these videos, you'll be learning how to teach reading, and in kind of a fun way as we tour Mackinac Island.
Concept 4, complex ends. Moving from simple syllables like at, it, and run to complex syllables like hunt, help, and mist.
Concept 3, the hungry rule.
Concept 1, consonants and short vowels. Concept 1, consonants, short vowels. Let me first review what the sounds should sound like before we move into the concept. B. Notice it's not b, b. We cut off that sound. D. Both of these safe. Start over. B. Did. G. J. O. Both of these. R. S. T. V. Notice it's continuing. It's not v.
So hard.
Y. X.
That's the one that's a bad one.
Like an X. It's a KS. Z. Okay? Okay? So the tough ones here, cut off the It's not a duh, it's a d. And r with me. R. O. Okay? That's a tough one. X. Yik is tough. Okay? Concept 1 is the starting point for start 1. The child only knows a few consonants and one vowel. And we begin at concept 1. For those at start 2, we do both concept 1 and 2. Now at concept 1, when I have my student, new student or students, I check their consonants real quick. And all I do is I point and they read across. So let us pretend you're my group and let me check your sounds. Are you ready, everyone? But. Louder. Dit. Notice these two go together. Good. Just a k sound. O. With me. Both of these say just like both of these say. A little more of a r sound. You don't say red. It's red. With me. Red. This can also say z. Z. You hear that? What? Let me hear it. What?
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually put this where it belongs. Yeah. Z. Very first thing is I check the kids' consonants. What I found is that generally kids have trouble, if they have trouble, with L, R, X, and Y. I clean those up. They put us, g, b, I cut them off. They know from now on this means to cut it off. So if the child goes b, it's b, okay? So I clean these up very quickly, and then I go to spell and read. And it's the spelling of sounds that really cleans them up. So I want you to take your board out and put it in front of you, okay? Or your chart. And I will say the sound, and then I want you to echo and point to the consonants. Once we've checked the consonants, cleaned them up, we move to spell and read. It's the spelling of sounds that cleans them up, because the kids echo you. Watch with me. Ready? B, echo. Point to your chart. Now check. Now if I'm tutoring, of course, the child will have his board in front of me, and he'll point and I'll quick check. But if I have a class, They will point, and then I'll say check, and they'll look up here. D.
D.
Notice how my sound helps clean yours up. O.
O.
X. Y.
Y.
Z. V. R. N. Z. Actually, the child does know too. And if he knows too, he can point to it. Child does know too. Child knows too. Okay. So spelling sounds, I clean them up. Now I check them with reading. Everybody with me. Look here. What's that?
D. D. G. G. J. M. N. N.
Both of them.
R. V. T.
Louder. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I check the consonants for concept 1. I clean them up. Okay. Then I do spell and read sounds. Once that's good to go, I then go into the vowel sounds. Make sure. Before I do that, I have to talk about what a syllable is because vowels are used in a syllable. So let me introduce to a syllable. All words are made up of syllables. And there are 1,000,000 words. And 6 syllables, only 6, make up these 1,000,000 words. Okay? Now, a syllable is easy to remember. It's a puff of air or a tap. Okay? So for instance, velvet, let's put your hand here, say velvet.
Velvet.
How many puffs is that? Velvet.
2.
2. How about hit? Hit, how many puffs? 1. Fantastic, ready? Fantastic. How many puffs?
3.
It's 3 syllables. You can also tap it. Fantastic, with me? Fantastic. How many taps?
3.
3. Locate.
Locate.
How many taps?
2.
Ostensibly.
Ostensibly. 4.
All words are made up of syllables, and we are going to keep coming back to these syllables. Now there's two very important ones you need to know from the start. One is open syllable, and that's where the syllable actually ends in the vowel. And the way to look at it is this vowel is in a race, and it can keep running. It runs a long way and is proud, very proud, and people know his name, so it has his name because he can run a long way. He's pretty proud, and everyone knows his name. And what's his name? I. So this would be what?
My.
Another syllable is closed, where the vowel's closed in, it can only go a short way, and it has its short sound.
So it ends in a consonant.
Yes. Ends in a consonant. It's closed in, has its short sound, like in mint. Okay? Now, the short sounds are the hard ones. Let me introduce them. The short vowels. Let me first read the short vowels. I, Again. I, Watch my vowel, watch my mouth. Retake. Short vowels. Let's read these. I, ah. Watch my mouth as I do this. Ah. What geometric figure do you see? Circle, square, line, triangle. It's a line sound. And the line gets thicker. It starts thin and it gets thicker. Ah is a thicker line. For younger kids, I'll often call them grins. But they form line or grin sounds. Now, put your hand under your chin, and as you say it, watch what happens to your chin, or to your hand. Notice the chin drops, your hand drops. That's what we're showing here is the dropping of the jaw. That your mouth is getting larger and larger. It's opening up more. Remember, vowels open up your mouth, consonants close it. Syllables all have a sounded vowel that opens up your mouth, and then consonants close those. Okay? Now, let's read those with me again. I, ah. I is a fingernail, just the very nail. I. A is the very tip of your finger. Pardon me. Retake. I is a nail. I. That's how far your mouth should be. A is the tip of your finger. A. A is your knuckle right here. A. Is a twist. And is this whole big knuckle here. I. A. Okay? You can certainly have a bowl of water and soap if you want to wash your hands before you do that. But that gives you a sense of the mouth positions of these vowels. Now, if a child has trouble with a vowel, I will give them a key word, and those are located at the end of the scope and sequence section. The key word for this is it, echo, axe, up, and odd. So if a child has trouble with this, when he recites it and he has trouble with that, he would go, or she would go, axe, If they had an problem, they would go, echo, axe, I only give a key word as needed. Once they know the sounds, I will do spell and read. Spelling the teacher says, so I will say it, and the child will go, the child will go, and then reading, I will point and have the child read. The child will go, If they've learned a key word, they'll say the key word when they run into that problem sound. Echo, But again, I only use keywords as needed. Once we've done the spelling and read sounds, I then have the kids recite this. So they have it automatic. Now that we've introduced the short vowels, we can do full lessons and we can do the spell and read syllables and spell and read words. One of the things we're getting across here is how to cut off the sounds. We don't spend a lot of time in the consonants. We clean them up. Then every day when I do spell and read sounds, I always clean up the tough ones. But ones that they do well, I come back to it seldomly. I'm basically hitting the problem sounds. If they've got one mastered, we move on. So we take care of it daily. We use this for the sound to cut it off. If the child has vowel sound problems, we have a technique at the back of this section for memory to help. It deals with mouth positions, and we'll get to that later. Okay? Okay? Now, just a general rule. The first letter is your best bet. Okay? Your first one. So for right now, your C is your better bet than if you're not sure what to use. Okay? For your F's your best bet. For N, your N's your best bet. For R, your R's your best bet. Okay? And general rule. That's your best, and I call the other the rest. Okay? No word ends in V. They all end in VE. Just a general rule. That's something I just tell kids. Then I read them. No word ends in V. They all end in VE. So now they know they already have an advantage in spelling, because they know for right now, when in doubt, the beginning or middle, they're going to use this. Okay? For N, they're going to be using this. And they know that words at the end will be VE. Okay? Z, this is our best bet at the beginning. S is used at the middle, and at the end it's an SE. Now, what's called the best and rest box, you do usually about 3 days after teaching the new consonant, the new concept. So after I've introduced the basic new concept, which is the text here, within about 3 days afterwards, I'll start moving into the best and rest. But our rule is always go as fast as you can, as slow as you must. So if you can move quicker than that, more power to you. Okay? I always go as quick as I can. When we talked about the vowel sounds, we're getting across that the vowels open your mouth, and that all syllables have to have a vowel to open it. Consonants have a more of a closing position on the mouth. So in the word hit, it opens the mouth, t closes it, the T closes it. So vowels, all syllables have to have a vowel. Okay? Remember, if they struggle with the vowels, we do have a sound symbol memory device that we use. Okay? So far in the lesson, if you've done step 1, your lesson will be spell and read sounds. Again, you'll follow the notebook. Okay? The notebook does have syllable work pulled for you and spelling words pulled for you. Everything you need is there. So you will go ahead and follow this notebook. You'll do spell and read sounds hitting their problems. Your new concept, you might teach some of the best and rest, or just reinforce whatever they struggled with. And then you'll do spell and read syllables, which is listed right here for you. Spelling of words, and then you move into their book. Okay? And choose which series is the best series for them. Okay? I recommend from the very beginning that in spell and read syllables, when you dictate syllables to the kid, start making your own up based on their mistakes. So their sequence here is like this on page 49. Ap, am, ad, nad, nax, nix, wix, yix. But if you notice vowel problems like at and I recommend you jump out then and go yaks, yaks, yicks, bix, box, backs, that you play with the mistakes and errors. Get used to playing with this sequence right from the very beginning. Every time you do it, start adding some syllables that you are doing based on their mistakes. Because when you get good at this, this is totally diagnostic. Okay? So basically it's a straight lesson kind of following the notebook.
Concept 2, consonant teams.
Concept 2, consonant teams. Teams are 2 letters or consonant sounds that play together or work together. Okay? These are your teams. I'm going to start with the first. Let me introduce you to this team. It's the choo-choo team. Look at me. You got a choo-choo train and you got smoke coming out of the stack. And every time it goes, you hear ch, 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 ch. Everyone with me, let's try that. Ch, 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 ch. Good. Here we have the silent team. Wants everyone to be silent. Shh. Okay. Let's go back. Ch, 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 ch. This one. Shh. Here we have the birthday team. Now here's your candle, and there's the flame. Blow it out. Just blow. Good. Very simple. It's not, it's just a blow. Okay? Let's go back here. Shh. Here we got the nasty team. It sticks its tongue out at you. It's got the silent one of and the noisy one of. Show me the nasty team. Silent, noisy.
So show them both?
I'll tell the kids, okay, choo-choo team, and they'll go ch, ch, ch. Silent team, they'll go shh. Nasty team, they'll go, and then they'll give me silent and noisy. These have words to help us remember. This is the queen team. It's queen, qu. And this is the king team. King, okay, ready? Queen, qu, king, Notice it's not g. It's okay? All right. Let's quick review this. Show me the choo-choo team. Silent team. Shh. Birthday team. Nasty team. Silent noise. Queen team. Queen. King. Okay. So there's times I will have the kids do the signals, or I'll do the signal. They'll say the sound and point. But I go pretty quickly to spelling and reading. Remember, spelling I say, reading I point. Are you ready? Go ahead and point. Check yours, okay? Good. Shh. Check. Check. By the way, anytime I'm spelling, this checking or roving is what you're going to do with a class. You'll start with checking, and then you're going to go rove and work with kids individually. Are you ready? Check. Quo. Check. Eventually, you don't have to say check. They get in the habit. Shh. Now let's read. Everybody? Shh. Next. Look up here. Read. Let's try that again, nice and loud. Spell and read. Anytime you teach a sound, you have spelling and reading. Now, concept 2, once you are in concept 2, you're at the second start. They have the consonants, teams, and vowels good to go, and they're ready to go into a full lesson, and they can go to the first book in any of my series at a start 2. Okay? Normally, this takes me with a kid about 15 minutes maximum to clean this up, if they're a start 2, and get them into a full schedule. Once I clean it up, I go right into spell and sounds, I go right into a full schedule. Okay? All right? Discussion. Anytime where discussion will be at this book. Notice in concept 2, there's no best and rest. Okay? There's no box over there. And it just gives you some key points to help remember these teams. Something you might want to know, is this really U has a kind of a W sound here? Quote. So it's having a W sound. So that's why it's 2 consonant sounds working together. This here is what's called a nasal singer. And how you know nasal singers is if you pinch your nose when you do it, you can't do it. Try it with me. That's how you know it. Okay? All right, the lesson at this point is pretty straightforward. It has your spelling of syllables. It has your spelling of words. Be in mind, you don't have to do all the syllables and all the spelling. You only do enough till they get the concept and you move on. Because we're always going as fast as we can, as slow as we must. Okay? So, we're basically doing spell and read sounds with this information. Our new concept, I'll reinforce anything they might not have, or I'll reinforce some of the spelling things we talked about, like Z is Z, S in the middle, and SE at the end. I might review that. Then my spell and read syllables, again, I use the words in your book, but I start making up some of my own for both spelling and reading based on errors or problems the child has.
Concept 3, the hungry rule.
Concept 3, the hungry rule. Let me introduce you to these final spellings. They have a short or smaller version, like f is just an F, and ul is just an L, s is just an S, k at the end is a K, ch at the end is a CH, j at the end is a GE. So they have their smaller versions, don't they? And they have their bigger versions. The double F, double L, double S, C, K, T, C, H, D, G. These are big spellings versus the smaller spellings. Okay? With younger kids, you may want to go ahead and pull out the smaller spellings for each of these. That's up to you. I like to show it this way, the big spelling versus the small. Okay? Now the problem is, when we use these, let me review these spellings with you. Ul, s, k, ch, j. When do we use the bigger piece or the smaller piece? Well, it's pretty easy. It's called the hungry rule. Short vowels in one-tap words, one-syllable words, are hungry, and they want the bigger piece. Okay? So in this case, this is really, really hungry. So if the word's batch, he's going to take the bigger piece, batch. Okay? In the word back, he's really hungry. He's going to take the bigger piece, such as back. In the word bats, really hungry, it's going to take the bigger piece.
So one-syllable words are...
One-syllable word, one tap, is hungry. Now here is our problem, though, that we have. If we have a friend, this vowel will share and take the smaller piece. So, In this case, if the word is ranch, he shares, okay, with a friend and takes the smaller piece. Now, he often shares with friends when he's not as hungry. So he'll invite friends over and he'll have lots of stuff shared. But when he's really starving, he'll go to a buffet and have the bigger piece, okay? But when he has friends, he shares and takes the smaller. So if there's any other letter afterwards, he's going to share. He's not going to take the bigger piece because he's going to share, okay? So in ranch, he uses the smaller piece, like the CH. Now you could just pull this if you want, but you get across the idea of the smaller piece. If the word's rank, like his rank, he'll take the smaller piece and share, okay? Again, you could use just the K, okay? Now, if there's a double vowel, okay, like this, which I haven't taught yet, but let's say you have this, and it was roof. Well, again, it's not a short vowel, so it's not hungry. And there's another letter there to share with. So there's two reasons it would take the smaller piece. Again, it only takes the bigger piece when it's a hungry vowel. And hungry vowels are that short vowel by itself with nothing after it. So if you have a one-tap word with a short vowel and there's no other letter to share with, he will take, or she will take, the bigger piece. Ratch. Rack. Okay? Now here's a case. Let's say this is rail. Is this a short vowel in rail?
Yes.
Okay? Ale. Does it say a?
No.
No. So it doesn't fit the hungry rule. That's one reason it doesn't fit. Is there another friend there? Or buddy?
Yeah.
Family member? Yeah. So he or she will share. Okay? So when they're by themselves and they're really hungry, it's the hungry rule, they take the bigger piece. When they invite friends over, they share and take the smaller piece. That we call the hungry rule.
Okay, what about on, like you said, rank? That's one syllable.
Let's go with rank. Okay, now rank is a one-tap word, rank, okay? Is A short in rank? Does it have the S sound? No. That's one reason it doesn't fit.
Oh.
Second, there's a friend to share with.
Okay.
Since there's a friend to share with, way to look at it when I put this under, is that N is getting a piece and I'm getting a piece. I'm sharing.
Okay.
Okay? Again, you don't have to do that. You can just take the letters down from here. But when there's a friend or family member, I share. Any other letter I share with. But when I'm by myself and I'm short, I want the bigger piece. Now at this point, I will dictate words to the kids and have them determine which piece they get. So I might have this and say, you put this here. You straighten these out. Steve, make this ridge. And he'll do this. Make it ris. Good. Okay? Make it ringe. Ringe. Ooh. It's going to take the smaller piece. Okay? Because of the N. And we will work with words using the bigger or smaller piece. Okay? Sometimes we refer to the words that have FL or S as floss words. And that meant FL or S doubled in words like floss. Okay? And I call these trilogy chart. The three that kind of fit together. Most spelling programs do these separately. I group them together into this one simple rule, the hungry rule. Discussion. Best and rest. Well, one of the things we're going to learn is that first, in the best and rest, that ick in longer words, like panic, fantastic, rustic, is IC. And again, the best and rest, I usually don't add those to 3 days later. I work on the basic concept, and the basic concept is introduced right here. And then about 3 days later, I start the best and rest. But that's up to you when you do that. Okay? Then there's a really tough, more difficult thing, which is CE, is often used after a long vowel like mice, lace. SE is used after consonant and two vowels, like loose or rinse. And then you got the double S used after short vowels. Again, you add that later as needed. Another factor to be aware of is this hungry rule also affects S and double syllable words. So I talk about, for some reason, the S sound in two syllable words is also hungry. So in the word express, it's a double S. Depress, possess. So these are your basic hungry rule sounds, but S is hungry in two-syllable words as well. And we teach those. Again, we don't teach that right away. And if a child is lower in cognition, I don't teach a lot of these exceptions. They're not exceptions, but I don't teach these additions. I just teach the pure sounds. And in fact, with severe cognitively impaired kids, I don't really get into the spelling rules. I just teach the sounds, R, or, and have them spell words phonetically correct because there's less memory involved. Does that make sense? Okay? All right. Now, there is a sentence that has some high-frequency CH words I have the kids memorize. And it's in your spelling notebook, but I also have it here in your notebook here. So, and it's under point 5. He was such a rich man that he ate the sandwich, which cost him much money. Now, when I teach this, I teach it as a picture story. So I want you to picture Donald Trump with lots of money coming out of his pocket, okay? So you got Donald Trump. He was what? Such a rich man that he what? Ate a sandwich, which what? Cost him much money. All right, so let's remember that. Donald Trump, what? He was such a rich man, put your money here, that he what? That he ate a sandwich which cost him much money. Now what this does is help a child with sequencing problems remember the sentence. Because he has the picture of Donald, the sandwich, and this. So, he was such a rich man that he ate a sandwich which cost him much money. Anytime you want kids to remember groups of words that have similar patterns, these picture stories are the way to go. There are no exceptions to my program. There are 1 million words in the Oxford Dictionary. Every word fits my program. Every one. It's either the best or the rest. So a kid who says, well, if doesn't fit, sure it does. It's the rest. Let's put it in our notebook. And you'll see the student has a notebook where we record the rest. Okay? Now, the schedule at this point, we're now at 3. It's basically, again, the same schedule, pretty clear. Spell and read sounds is, we're still clearing up their problems they had the first few days. Our new concept, I may be working on some of the best and rest. And my tracking sequence, I'm using the words at the bottom. But again, the last few words, I'm going to pull out words, make words that fit problems I see the kid has. And I'm going to do more of that each lesson. Because when I get really good at this, my whole lesson's going to be based on kids' problems. I'm going to take their problem and I'm immediately going to make syllable work to work on that problem. Okay?
Concept 4, complex ends.
Concept 4, complex syllables. This is pretty simple. Let's read this with me, everyone. Fit. Let me introduce you to something a little more complex. What would this be?
Fist.
Fist. What would this be?
Fisp.
Fisp. Okay. Good. What would this be? Dism.
Ism.
This would be film. Okay. Complex syllables basically are syllables that have blends at the end, and we blend for reading but not for spelling. So that'd be film, but if we're spelling film, we want to go it-ul-m. Okay? They're complex syllables. Now, the reason I add complex syllables early, complex ends, is so that I can start adding the suffixes. Okay? And we add the suffixes pretty straightforward. Okay? One of the things we want to get across is the suffix ing, which is act of. Okay? So if I'm running, it's the act of being involved in run. If I'm hitting, it's the act of hit. So I will give the quick definition, and these are listed in your notebook. What's ed? 3 sounds. Ed didn't means past tense. So when that's added to the word yesterday I acted, what does that mean? It's the past tense of act. Okay? Yesterday I sell, the past tense of sale. Okay? Less means without. So hitless is without a hit. Bigness, or bigless is without big, there's no such word. Brainless is without a brain. So we add the suffixes. Now generally, I'll introduce a couple the first day with complex. And then I'll do 2 or 3 a day, and I add those 2 or 3 when I am at reading of sounds. As I'm doing this, I'll simply point to a new sound, a new suffix, and say this is what that means. And I add it, okay? Just very casually. Okay? Plurals. Now, plurals is pretty simple. We teach the fact that you use an S normally for plurals like films. If it's more than one, you add an S. But if it makes another syllable, add an ES. Boxes makes another syllable, it's an ES. Taxes, another syllable, it's an ES. So when you make a plural, it's usually an S, but if it forms another syllable, it's an ES. So in this complex syllables, you're introducing blends at the end, but you're also starting to introduce suffixes because you can add these suffixes to words with blends without doing anything to the ending letters. You don't have to double or drop. It's very important. Now, ED actually has 3 sounds of ed, did, and tit. And how I teach it is this way. I learned this from Ailey Cox. It has ed, did, and t. Let me show that again. It has the ed sound, the d sound, and the t sound. Ed, did, t. And I'll do oral work with that. So I will give the kids oral words such as, let's say I'm dealing with the d sound. Sailed, is the d added to the word or is it part of the word? And you can say, well, it's added, so it's an ed. Now how about the word hid? And hid, is the d part of the word or is it added? And hid. It's part of the word, the d. Without the d, there's no word. So that's just a d. The word bid, the d is part of the word, so it's a d. The word hailed, there's a word left, hail, like hail to the chief, so it's an ed. So one of your ways to figure out if it's a suffix is there a word left when I take it off? Same with t, the t sound. Jumped, if I take the t off, there's a word left, so it's got to be an ed. But the word rat, there's no word, it has to be a t. The word hit, there's no word, so it has to be a t. But the word limped, if I take the t off, there's a word left, so it's an ed. So one thing you can help the kids is suffixes are added to a word. There must be a word left. Concept 5, the bully rule. The bully rule. We have to be careful about suffixes that begin with vowels. They're called vowel suffixes, like es, ed, er, est, en, or ing, which I put here. These are all vowel suffixes. The reason is they tend to be a little pushy. In fact, we call them bullies. They will tend to jump over one consonant and make short vowels say their name. Now this happens primarily in a one-tap word. If you have a one-tap word like hop, and you have a short vowel in only one consonant, it will jump over and make that vowel say its name. So this does not become hopping. This vowel, this bully, makes it say O and hoping. So that is a problem. How do we deal with that? We protect it with a bodyguard. Double the letter. This counts as kind of a magic card, and it represents a double P. Now it's protected with hopping. So if we have that tap word with just that one short vowel and consonant, we must protect the base word. Okay? If it was hop less, there's no problem because it's not a vowel suffix, it's a consonant suffix. But if it's hopped, we have a problem. Again, there's one consonant and that short vowel. This can jump over, so we need to put in that bodyguard. Now some younger kids, we call it a defender that helps defend against this bully. Okay? Now we don't have a problem in words where there's blends at the end. So let's say the word is rest. Okay? In the word rest, we could have rested, but notice that we don't have one consonant. This can't hop over two consonants. It only has its power over one. So this is protected. It does have a bodyguard. There's two consonants. Okay? And if there's two vowels, like the word, let's say, rooted, again, we have no problem because this vowel, first, it's not a short vowel, and again, it's protected. There's two letters. This can only hop over one, okay? So if there's a short vowel there, let's say this word was this, it was ratting, now it has its effect. It can jump over, and we need that defender or bodyguard, okay? So, bullies, vowel suffixes are bullies, and they can hop over one consonant, make the vowel say its name, that short vowel, and we need to protect it with a bodyguard, okay? Another good example is rotted. Notice it's protected. Without that, it's not protected, and it's rooted. Now, what's powerful about this rule is that when we go to concept 9, and we learn silent E, the effect of silent E, we have the same problem. This vowel suffix is a bully, makes him say his name like in hoped. But there's another way to deal with a bully, and that is to walk away. Now the interesting thing is this vowel was teaching him to say his name in hope. By walking away, this actually becomes helpful. And sometimes bullies can be helpful as well. Helps him say his name, and we avoid a conflict. So another way we're going to learn in Concept 9 to deal with bullies is to walk away. Hoper, we walk away. Okay?
Concept number 6. Tall king think words.
Concept 6, king think words. This is a pretty simple word, and we can all read this. What's that say?
Rig.
But notice what happens when I put this after it. What does that become?
Ring.
What happened to that is, huh? Rig to ring.
It's shortened.
Yeah,
Turns to a long E.
it almost turns the long E, doesn't it? Ring. Okay? And the same thing happens if it was rink. Orton affects that. Let's look at another one like that. This, folks, would be ran, right? Well, what happens when I put this here? What's it become?
Rain.
What happens? It becomes A, doesn't it? And similar, rank. So we have these things called king think words that the vowel is slightly distorted, don't we? And there's another thing that does that too. Okay? So we could have a word like this. At, right? But when I put a double L after it, that's no longer act. What is that? All. Okay? And a good example of the word is what?
Ball.
These things, these words that where the vowel's distorted, I call tall king think words. Tall king think words. And they're a word family. They're words that we want to memorize. And we want to memorize them for reading and spelling. So I'll work with them. If parents work with me, I'll have parents help the kids with these and have them practice these for spelling. But these are a couple of the few word families we teach as word families. Okay? Let's go to the beginning spelling list and look at the most frequent words that fit tall king think words. Tall king think words, discussion. One of the criticisms that phonics programs get from other programs who are opposed to it is they say there's over 220 some sounds and it's impossible to learn those. Well, that would be if you did that. There's really 44 sounds that you need to know. But if you have kids memorize all the rhymes, R-I-M-E-S, like ick, odd, ack, at, which a lot of programs do, there's about 110 of those. And you have memorized blends, there's like 40 some to 50 of those. You do end up with over 200 some sounds. We don't do that. We take care of all our blends and our syllable work through tracking, such as back, make it black, make it blick, make it blit, like it blist. That's how we work on blends. And with the rhymes, we only do a few. The tall king think words, and then you're going to see at concept 16 what we call the most kind old words. Those are the ones we have kids memorize and work with. Everything else fits the phonetic program. Now, at this point in your lesson planning, you can be following my program pretty cleanly, pulling the spelling and reading syllables. But what you want to be doing is starting to more and more for spelling syllables, giving students words that challenge them based on their problems, and also reviewing more of the program. You now could review short vowel power, you can review adding suffixes, you can review the ending blends. So you could take my sequence and then add words such as sad, which deals with just a simple syllable. Sadly is adding a suffix. Or sad, make it sid, make it stid, make it stidding. Now he's got to double the D. Okay? Make it stid less. Now he doesn't double. Make it stitch, TCH. Okay, make it stidge, DGE. So you can start playing with the program and starting to add words to my tracking sequence. Again, I have a nice tracking sequence, but it isn't diagnostic to your kids. And pretty soon, you want to start changing the sequence for your kids. Okay?
Concept 7. Complex fronts. Hard and soft C and G.
Concept 7. Beginning blends, hard and soft C and G. This is a pretty simple syllable. Let's read this with me. What would this say?
Big.
Let's make this complex. What would this be?
Flig.
Flig. What would this be?
Frig.
Frig. What would this be?
Crig.
Crig. Very tough one. What would this be?
Drig.
Drig. Notice that's tough because it doesn't sound like drig, does it? Drig. Another tough one is this. This doesn't sound like trig, does it? It sounds like trig. These are ones, these two especially, you have to practice in tracking. When you do syllable work, dig, make it drig, make it trig, make it tig. You need to practice these. These are tough ones. These are, of course, beginning blends. Trig, drig. And we're going to start working with beginning blends in our reading and spelling. Now, if your kids were doing pretty well on blends at the beginning, you went ahead and taught beginning blends at Concept 4. If not, this is where you introduce them. But one of the big issues when you're doing the blends is really work on DR and TR, because that's a problem for kids, and that's best done during syllable tracking, where you're giving tracking, as I mentioned, tig, make it trig, make it frig, make it fig, feg, treg, dreg. Get them used to what happens when you have an R and then you have a T, and then getting them used to those changes. But it's a pretty simple concept. Okay? We also, if you haven't introduced it now, discuss hard and soft C and G. Okay? Now, the notebook says, if you haven't introduced it now, this is a good time to do it for older kids. Younger kids, first graders, we introduce this a little later in the program. But with older kids, some older kids, you want to introduce it pretty quickly. Concept 7 says if you haven't for older kids, kids really second grade and above, you might want to be doing it by now. Pretty straightforward concept. And good. Have a hard sound, okay? And good. But it's soft in front of I, E, or Y. Now, how do we know it's hard? Everybody say k, 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 k. The tongue's hard, and it hits the hard tongue, hits the hard roof in a hard way. Try that. Hard tongue, hard roof, hard way. Now let's say g, 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 g. Hard tongue, hard roof, hard way. Now let's say s. Tongue soft, isn't it? S. J, tongue soft. So it's a very practical thing. It's hard when the tongue is hitting hard tongue in a hard way. Now, when is it soft? And it's soft in front of 3 letters, I, E, and Y. That's when it's soft. Okay? That's when it says S and J. Okay? Now, one of the drills to do for this is when you're doing reading, of sounds, and you're going b, g, j, k. Take this C and slide it down, and the kid will either go k or s. What would they say here? K, s, 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 k. And you could put any vowels here for them to practice on, where they're given the k or s sound. Here they give the g or j sound. In front of I, it's the soft j, right? What would it say here? G, j, g. So you can practice. That's called the slide drill. And I just do that when I'm doing the reading of syllables, or pardon me, the daily reading of sounds. While I'm doing the reading of sounds, I'll just do the slide drill.
Okay, so if the consonant's in front of the vowel, it's always...
It would be hard. It's only soft in front of I, E, or Y. Now the question is how's a kid going to remember I, E, or Y? Well, we have a technique to help them remember. To help you remember when it's soft, we have a slogan, which is G, I, C, Y, it's soft. G, I, C, Y. Notice that here G has a J sound and that has a S sound. And what that tells you is J and S in front of I, E, or Y. It's a little slogan I have to help kids remember when do they have the soft sound that's in front of I, E, or Y. G, I, C, Y. Okay?
So
Now, C is very dependable. There's only one word used a lot that doesn't fit, soccer. Should be soxer. But G is less dependable. There are exceptions to G, like girl. There's many more exceptions to that. And of course, it fits our program. Everything fits. It just those words we write in the notebook is the rest. But the C is pretty dependable on that. Okay? Superman rule. Clark Kent gets really upset when friends of his say, "Hey, Clark Sent, do you have your sit so you can fly in the sky?" Obviously, they don't understand that you have to always protect the k sound. And that's what he does. He's very intent on protecting the k sound. And we all know that these E, I, or Y makes this say soft. Makes the S sound, makes it soft. So we have to make them a k. How we protect the k sound is by putting a K in front of E, I, or Y. Now what that does is protect Clark's name. Hey, Clark Kent, because that E doesn't make that soft. So Superman is very much, in fact, with younger kids, I will actually stand out. I have my leg like bottom of the K and my arm like the top of the K and say Superman wants to protect that K sound and make a K, but I'll actually make a K with my body. I'll have that and then this. He wants to protect that in front of E, I, or Y. Pardon me. Wants to protect this K sound in front of E, I, or Y and show that with his body. So, I call that the Superman rule. Superman tries to protect the K sound in front of E, I, or Y, and he shows that with his body, how you need to protect that K sound in front of it.